Oh, we're live.
We
Hello,
are.
welcome to the Legends Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy, and with me today I have the infamous coin tosser, Dylan.
Hello.
Dylan, you need to. I expect an apology right now for the listening audience.
Well, you said it was going to be fine, and then it didn't.
Apologize. And apologize for that bad toupee.
When have I ever apologized for the Widow's Peak?
Never. I can always hope, though. And we have Bryant with us, the Nerds Pub.
Hey.
One of my brothers in arms when we talk about Highlander on Matthew Wilson's.
Okay, I've retired the Highlander coin jar. So
Well, this is a different show.
Okay, so
We'll talk about Highlander if we want to. Except for I don't feel like it tonight. But and we have a new arrival, former coworker of mine, Ender, also known as the guy who always puts up with my nonsense Star Wars talk at work.
Hi, yep, that's true.
Until he didn't work there anymore.
That's me. Until they got rid of me.
They did. They did get rid of you. It was not. And also, my nice new tattoo that looks super gross right now. There for display.
Very nice.
Good shit. Good shit right here. All right. Hi, Rob D. So we do have one viewer.
Excellent.
That's our average from back when we did the Google Hangouts, Dylan.
No, we would get like 3 or 4.
Well, one of those was me to monitor comments.
And one was
to monitor comments. Well, streaming.
One was Darth. I forgot what Darth name we gave him.
One was a certain someone we don't talk about on here because he won't talk about us because we're quote unquote small fry.
Exactly. Speaking of small fry, there was a huge announcement.
Oh yeah?
That was a dig it.
Yeah. Yeah, I followed. I was just wondering if we were going to go down that road. I mean, it's not like talking about a Darth Grosser who threatens to force choke people and talks about how good it is to read when you're angry at someone while looking like the fucking Unabomber.
Indubitably.
Dealt with over the years. Fucking weirdos.
There's a lot of lore behind this podcast.
There's so much lore, and we're only on episode 32. That's how frequent this show is. But let's talk about show topic.
Let's talk about something else that took like almost a year to come out.
Project Luminous dropped, also known as the High Republic.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the Jedi knew how to party in the High Republic.
Yeah,
I've seen a meme of one of the lightsaber, or one of like the covers of one of them, where all the lightsabers are replaced with blunts.
There we go. This is a good time. Even Ender's seen this because she would have panic trying to get people on here because Brian told me no immediately, instantly. I'm like, oh, Brian would be great on here. No, he hates us. Mainly, he hates you, Dylan, and your goddamn quarters.
Yeah, I saw the announcement video the other day, and I immediately thought, I was like, Jeremy's gonna have so much to say about this.
I actually,
the announcement video, like the whole announcement fiasco itself.
Well,
let's
get into the fiasco.
So, like Project Luminous, because I remember we were at Chicago. And that's when Celebration in Chicago, and that's when they announced Project Luminous. That was in April of last year. And then we kind of got like Charles Soule was doing like a little bit of teasing on Twitter, but like that didn't really manifest anything. And then we were told, okay, 2020, it's going to happen. And then like 2020 turned into like February, or it was like late January. Then it got pushed back to February. then we were told the actual day. It was the 22nd, I believe. It was a Monday. It was going to be like Monday at like 7 p.m. Pacific.
Oh, that was the 24th. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, that was last Monday.
Yeah, the 24th. And 7 p.m. Pacific rolled around, and well, if you've seen Matt Wilson, the Geeks Addict stream, you know how well that went.
God. And what we did get eventually was the biggest push to try to get Expanded Universe fans to buy new material that I have ever seen from them. This is including when Dylan walked up to, I can't remember, who did you talk to at Celebration Anaheim who gave you a copy of Lords of the Sith?
Oh, that was, ironically enough, our contact at Del Rey.
Which I can't thank him enough for the care package he sent me like last year. That was really cool. But like things like that, like we've dealt with a lot of things where it's like, can we have more Legends? It's like, well, here's this new thing. And now here we have a story group led by the Twitter menace, Pablo Hidalgo. Although he's
not even involved in this. I think Charles Soule is the head of this.
I'm not sure. I think Pablo has something to do with this.
Because Pablo wasn't on that panel in that video. It was all the authors.
Well, Pablo was in their little montage video. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that. I just saw the video.
I saw it. I was just saying I saw it a few days ago, but I couldn't remember who all was in it. I mean, I saw the authors, but like I didn't get to see who all.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing Pablo, but he may have been there and I missed him.
I mean, as the reveal itself, I think I told Jeremy and Matthew from Geeks Addict this. I just they kept teasing it in several media, like comics or books, and I was just like, and when they kept teasing it that much and they finally revealed that's what it was, the High Republic, I just was like, well, that's kind of cool. I mean, a little anticlimactic, but kind of cool. But
yeah, because it's like they're trying to do New Jedi Order and
It gave me a
Shadows of the Empire at like the same time.
It gave me a Dawn of the Jedi vibe, though, because we've been there, we've done that with like the Old Republic and stuff, where you have an older Star Wars story. Sorry, Windows is a lovely message. Where it's Star Wars, but it's Star Wars that you haven't seen before. That was Tales of the Jedi. That was Knights of the Old Republic. Like, we've been there, we've done that. We did that. We went in the future with Legacy, like way in the future. And we went back way far back for Dawn of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
So with High Republic, honestly, it's an era that is not touched upon in the EU. It would have been something I would have liked in the EU with the holocron involved. Because like Dylan and I talked about in the last episode, there needed to be some bridging from Dynasty of Evil to the Star Wars Republic comics, the early issues, like Vow of Justice and Prelude to Rebellion and stuff like that, where a lot of that is like only 10 years before Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I think the farthest back that got was in Jango Fett Open Seasons with those flashbacks.
Oh yeah, maybe that, or in Plagueis, the first couple chapters.
Yeah,
I was.
But those were like I think 50 to 70 years before A New Hope.
Oh yeah, because
or not A New Hope.
Man in those.
Phantom Menace, yeah.
Yeah, I remember Legends. I'm currently reading Darth Bane, but like I do know that like between Darth Bane and Darth Plagueis and Darth Tenebris was like, the untouched regions of Star Wars. So
yeah, Bane to Plagueis. There's like 30 Sith Lords. Bane to Plagueis is like 30 Sith Lords, counting Bane and Plagueis.
Thank you, Rob D. 67 BBY.
Oh,
was when.
But no, like what Jeremy was saying, just I am very intrigued by it because, like he was saying, it's Star Wars stuff that has not been explored, like the High Republic. I mean, we've got, like he said in Legends, we've got, the like over 100 years into the future, and then we have Knights of the Old Republic, and but they always give us timelines on that. This is like the untouched, portion of Star Wars, and so I am kind of intrigued to see, how it's going to all work out. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. It might get me back into reading new canon, which would be a miracle for them to do. They got me so irritated after things like Queen's Shadow and Alphabet Squadron and The Rise of Skywalker.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw Eckhart's Ladder's video about this, but he did make a great point in it, at least that I thought, that they're trying to do this, again, like almost kind of like Shadows the Empire / New Jedi Order thing of there's going to be this big event and all these different mediums are going to cover this one event. Not really event, but like one like cohesive like story that's going to cross time media. But they have they don't have any of the classic expanding universe Legends authors, even the ones that they brought back into the new canon who have experience in doing that. They're backing this almost completely off of all the new authors that they brought in since the canon switch. And he wasn't sure that the new authors would be able to do something like that because they just don't have the experience doing that. And at least so far, from what he said, what he's read in the new canon, he doesn't think that they're able to do it.
Well, let's compare this to. I know it's not quite the same. Well, the thing I'm thinking of is New Jedi Order, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Who came back for New Jedi Order? Stackpole?
Stackpole, Alston, and Kathy Tyers were the three who came back.
And Kevin J. Anderson.
Kevin J. Anderson was not involved in New Jedi Order.
I thought he had one book.
No, he didn't. The only three Bantam authors that were brought into New Jedi Order were those three. Now, you could argue that Troy Denning had actually begun his career writing for Weston Games, so he was involved around the Bantam era in a lot of the Weston Games short stories and like adventure journals. So he did have some experience, and I think a few of the others involved as well, but none of them at that point had been novel writers, at least in Star Wars.
So, thinking of new canon, who do we have who's championing this new era of new canon? And I can only think of Charles Soule, who's not written a novel for Star Wars at all, and Claudia Gray. Those.
And, we also have Daniel Jose Holder, who wrote.
Right, I forgot he's involved.
Yeah, he wrote the Last Shot.
Last Shot.
Yeah.
Cavan Scott as well. I've seen that name before.
Yeah. Probably written either comics or the kids stuff.
And the other one is Justina Ireland.
No, ringing a bell, but I'm not up to date on the new canon.
Yeah, I'm still trying to work my way through like everything.
And the editor is Michael Siglin. I've got Wikipedia open right now. He was the editor for Zeb to the Rescue, Escape from Dark Vader, Use the Force, Rescue from Jabba's, all stuff from 2014 and 15, essentially.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Well, I'm glad that they're not continuing the new like trilogy story. So I think if they did that, everyone would be done. That would be the nail in the coffin for Star Wars for the moment.
Yeah, this really does kind of feel like them trying to sort of claw their way out with the last movie not doing so well. I remember hearing someone was mentioning that they're trying to move away from like full movies and theaters to more of like a show comic book universe.
Yeah, like let them do that. Like
I support it.
They can do their own thing. We just want the legends back,
Yeah.
That's really what we asked for. Secretly we asked for Karen Traviss to write about terrible Jedi characters that have relationships with their clones. Favorite series, Republic Commando.
Kevin Scott wrote Dooku Jedi Lost.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's yeah.
That audiobook that they released, I guess you could call it.
Audio drama.
Yeah, they released the novelization of it, but I only listened to the audio drama. So
it's an okay audio drama. About half of it is well acted, the other half is terribly acted, but it is fun.
I didn't really care for the actor that played Count Dooku because he sounded like young Christopher Lee.
He didn't even sound like young Christopher Lee to me. He just sounded like someone who couldn't do a Christopher Lee impersonation, so didn't try after a while.
I mean,
they should have gotten the guy who did him in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
The series, not the movie. The movie is Christopher Lee, I actually found out the other day. It's one of the few movie actors that came back for that movie. Because Samuel L. Jackson's Mace Windu in it. Anthony Daniels is, of course, C-3PO, because that's the only character he's ever been, ever, in a movie that anyone cares about. And, oh, God. And Ian McDiarmid is Palpatine in that.
It's been so long since I've seen that movie.
It popped up after I watched the new episode of Clone Wars. It popped up, it auto-played the movie, and I'm like... thought it was another episode, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, I've seen this before, and I'm like, oh, it's that awful movie.
I was gonna say there's a comment there, Jimbo Joe 1234. I kind of agree with him. He says it's time to leave the Skywalker saga and make more stories, and I kind of agree with that. I think that after the new trilogy, I'd like to, just kind of see what else is out there in the world of Star Wars, whether it be canon or legends, So
yeah, in the trailer, they talked about it being sort of a multimedia lore era, and I wonder if that's just going to mean books and graphic novels, or if they might try for a live action or animated TV series or shorts.
Talking movies, that was the rumor at one point.
But so far the only confirmed licensees are the publishers, both in books and comics.
I do know that the movies are supposed to come back in 2022, I think, but they have not confirmed what they are going to be about.
After they put the final nail in the Marvel Studios coffin. A bunch of movies no one cares about, but people will go see because it's a Marvel character. I'm very cynical about these things. I don't know if you do this, Adam.
Are you talking about the upcoming Marvel movies like Black Widow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
Peter will defend these all day, by the way. You're all forewarned.
No, I'm not interested in that movie. There's a weird wave of superhero movies that don't have an interesting or iconic antagonist recently. Like the Wonder Woman 1984. There's nothing. Who is she fighting? What's the...
Let's think about who's the only villain that anyone kind of knows that's Wonder Woman's nemesis. That's Ares. And she killed Ares at the end of the first movie. There's nothing you can do.
Just give her some other random villain.
I thought Cheetah was her.
That's true.
I think that's who the next villain is Cheetah.
Well, I mean, in the MCU, they killed off Captain America's biggest enemy in the first movie,
and then they just made up bullshit. No one cared. That was the problem with those Captain America sequels. No, that was actually the problem. If you really want to analyze Marvel Studios' villain problem, it's bland. The only one they seemed to like was Loki, and I'm not quite sure why, except for what's his face, and the ladies love him.
Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah, that was 100% it. He sold tickets to movies.
Yeah, he sold tickets to Thor movies. That's a miracle.
Oh, the third one I like.
It's actually a film. The other two aren't.
The first two are
sure what you call them. But they are awful. Like Thor and Thor: The Dark World, unbearable.
Yeah, that's a really horrible film. I agree.
I mean, like, honestly, name 5 villains that aren't Thanos or Spider-Man related villains that are in Marvel Studios movies.
Yeah, and I mean, they have problems with that.
I'm trying to think.
Well, they brought in Iron Man's villain, the Mandarin, but that was just a horrible adaptation.
Oh, that was 3, right?
That was Iron Man 3.
When they subverted your expectations when he wasn't actually the bad guy?
Yeah.
Remember in Iron Man 2, they found Mickey Rourke and he didn't look like a human being anymore, and they said he should be a villain.
I had a roommate in college that only watched that film because he wanted to hear him say, "I want my bird," you know?
The thing I love about Iron Man 2 is that's the reason Mickey Rourke was in Expendables, and in Expendables he's just drunk the whole time. And it is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. Let's address some of the comments here before we get too far ahead. Yes, I 100% agree. The IDW comics look really bad.
Well,
they're for little kids.
Someone say my name? I'm sorry.
What?
Oh, I thought Dylan said my name. Sorry.
Oh no, because yes, there are for little kids, but like, I kind of think it's weird that like they're bringing in IDW with this while at the same time in Marvel. And I know people have been very critical of the Marvel series, not only in Star Wars but in other things as well. I wonder if Disney's almost shopping now that the Marvel contract is, I believe it comes up in a couple years for comics.
Oh, it might be, but the thing is, they will keep Marvel because they own Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
They own Marvel. I don't think they own Marvel Comics. They own Marvel. They own film
Marvel
studio.
Studios, but I think like that's just if you own studios. That's where all the money is in Marvel.
Are the comics not owned by Disney? I thought they were.
I've been assuming they are, or it's Disney has a lot more control over Marvel. That's why it made so much sense when they had the cease and desist for Dark Horse.
I think they do own the comics.
Oh yeah, they do. They bought everything.
Speaking of that, I was actually watching The Simpsons with my wife the other day, and this is an episode that was from the early 2000s, and it showed a Fox 25 logo, and then it showed a subtitle saying a subdivision of the Walt Disney Corporation. Like, they do predict the future.
Yeah. My favorite is, you all are familiar with Columbia films?
Yeah.
I love how many times Columbia has been bought by a company. Like, it was a subsidy of Coca-Cola at one point. That's the thing in the 80s. It was owned by Coca-Cola. It's currently owned by Sony, which I don't know how Sony has any money to own anything at this point.
Yeah.
The garbage they release.
Yeah, I heard
PlayStation's must be selling really well.
I was going to say, I heard over the Spider-Man MCU drama and everything, Disney offered to buy Spider-Man from Sony, and Sony was like, "You can have Spider-Man back for $10 billion." I'm like, what? No.
That's the one thing they got. I don't think they understand that Marvel Studios saved them from what they were doing with Amazing Spider-Man. I don't think they quite understand that.
I was just I started losing interest at some point, and then whenever the only thing that piqued my interest about that was they're going to now incorporate Tom Holland in the Sony Venomverse. I'm like, how are they going to do that? So now I'm just, that's it.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I quite like those. Oh, next question. Yeah.
I like the cover of Light of the Jedi, one thing, but that's only one thing. Yeah, that's a nice cover.
It's interesting that they're going with such a different aesthetic for it. Again, only being 200 years ago.
400. It's 400.
I think it's 200 actually. I thought
it was 400.
I could have swore I heard 200, but I could be wrong. But
Yeah, 233. I'm on the Wikipedia page.
That's a specific number. Why 233?
Well, it's because 33 BB. I think it's 33 BBY is when Phantom Menace takes place, so it's 200 years before that.
Oh, okay.
It is interesting that it's exactly 200 years on the dot, but
this next comment, when I heard they were supposed to be what is it called, the Nile? Yeah, they look like space Vikings. I saw them like those look more like space pirates.
Well, yeah, there were people who were just like who were doing like Nile and then like Darth Nile from like the Legacy comics and like the Creative Freedom line that they had way back when.
Oh God. And yeah, we already answered that one.
It's just going to be interesting to see all this. Like, you see all these Jedi with like all their unique lightsabers, but there's no Sith. I mean, that we know of so far. And I'm just like,
yeah.
And people are saying like Tenebrous, like they might bring Tenebrous into the canon, I guess. But so far, it's just Palpatine and Plagueis. And I don't even know if canon confirmed that Plagueis was Palpatine's master or not.
Yes, they did.
They have.
They did. They just didn't. Oh, I'm sorry, Jeremy.
They didn't Tarkin.
Yeah, I think that they don't. They didn't. They no longer confirmed that he's the species of alien that he is. Like, all we know about him in canon is that he was Palpatine's master, and he died in his sleep. He was killed in his sleep. Yeah.
So he's not a moon anymore.
I mean, as far as I know, he still is. But I heard we know nothing about a canon Plagueis, so. I mean, I do remember seeing concept art somewhere for like ideas of Plagueis before they made him a moon. But like I said, all we know about Plagueis is that he existed in canon.
But that was a George choice. That was a full on George.
Oh, Plagueis, that was his choice.
Yeah, that was his thing.
I did not know that.
Yeah, because I think it was like James, his interview with James Luceno, where he said he approached George about maybe making him like not a human, and George told him, "Yeah, he's a moon, immune."
Next, we answered that one. We covered that one. Covered that one. Eternals.
I am kind of, speaking of Plagueis, I am kind of sad that James Luceno is not in Project Luminous, because he actually wrote really good Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was such a good and again, this was Eckhart's latter point in his video. He was such a good connector of things. So it's in when you're like, all right, this is our first chance to really get a multimedia project that's going to connect everything together, and you don't have the master of connecting things together on board.
Yeah, I mean, him in New Jedi Order. Imagine New Jedi Order without the unifying force, Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't work, I don't think. You need to have Luceno in there for both the unifying force and was that Agents of Chaos?
Yeah. I mean, Agents of Chaos was kind of early on enough that there wasn't really that much to tie together, but definitely with Unifying Force. And then definitely with Plagueis. Because the EU had this thing where the publishers would be like, okay, for this set of years, we're going to fill in the gaps of this era. And then after that's done, we're going to move on to the next era. And every now and then they'd go back to a previously established era with a new book. And most of the time when they did that, the new book wasn't that well received. Shadows of Mindor being a good example of that. Lockdown being a good example of that. But Plagueis was the exception.
Yeah, unless your name was Timothy Zahn, which he wrote some of the worst examples of tying things together with his let me do the backstory of things. It only worked once. Zahn's prequels to the Thrawn Trilogy. Outbound Flight's the only one that actually works. And Allegiance and Choices of One are garbage. And what was it? Scoundrels is almost unreadable. It's so infuriating as a book. The fact that that's one of the last EU books upsets me.
That's also timeline-wise the first appearance of Winter, I believe.
Oh God, she is in that, isn't she? Next comment. Interested in seeing upcoming MCU movies, but I'm more interested in MCU Disney Plus stuff. I'm not even interested in that.
The WandaVision
is the only one I'm mildly interested in because I like that actress.
Oh, what's her name? It's Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen's sister.
Yeah, she made Scarlet Witch interesting, which I didn't think was humanly possible, unless it was House of M, the comic.
Yeah.
The only time I've given crap about Scarlet Witch before that.
Yeah, she was one of my favorite parts of the last few movies in the whole Marvel MCU arc.
Mm-hmm. Well, her and Vision are that's a very interesting blending.
Yeah.
I like that direction. It's one of the things I like of current MCU.
I used to think that Disney and Fox had a deal about the twins, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, because in a deleted scene in X-Men Days of Futures Past, you actually do see you get a reference to the Scarlet Witch, but you never see her. But they have Quicksilver, but we get Quicksilver in the MCU, and then he's killed off in one movie.
Thing.
I'm sorry, what?
It was a weird ownership thing where they both ended up owning the rights to Quicksilver, but not Scarlet Witch. MCU owned Scarlet Witch.
Mm-hmm.
Dumbest thing, and that was when, if you all remember in the comics, because Matt and I both bitched about this. They decided that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch weren't Magneto's kids.
Yeah, I saw that.
That irritated me to no end. It was so petty why they did it too. It was the same reason they canceled Fantastic Four. There was no Fantastic Four for a while because they didn't own it.
Yeah, I saw what you were talking about. I think Scarlet Witch kind of put a curse on Magneto's bloodline, and then when they found out they weren't affected by, they're like, "Oh, well, this is interesting." It's like the worst episode of Maury ever. Magneto, you are not the father.
Yeah. All right, I want to see how Moon Knight turns out, seeing as he's just a bootleg Batman. He's a bootleg Batman that's literally insane, though. You can't. Moon Knight's one of my favorite Marvel characters. It can't be.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Moon Knight, actually.
I'm intrigued by it. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. I was just going to say, I think it's interesting that they selected Moon Knight to make a show about.
It was about time, is what I.
Yeah.
I want to learn more about Moon Knight. I've only knew about him from the Web of Shadows Spider-Man game. And I want to read more of the comics and everything because he does look like a very interesting character.
Jeff Lemire's run of Moon Knight's pretty good. At least the opening of it. Would recommend that.
Okay.
My thing with Moon Knight is I wanted that before we got Jessica Jones. Because to me, Jessica Jones just had that awful. I mean, it wasn't super awful, but I just didn't care for it. If you all remember Marvel Max, there are almost NC-17 rated comics where they let Garth Ennis and Brian Michael Bendis write whatever they wanted with characters. So we had the nastiest Punisher series ever, which is the highlight of it.
I've not read that.
I haven't either.
Punisher Max, you all need to read Punisher
Sounds
Max.
Good.
Specifically, Garth Ennis's run of it. It is awesome. Punisher is in his 60s because it's the early 2000s. He's a Vietnam vet. And he is just this killing machine that knows that it's not about revenge anymore. It's because he likes doing it, which is an interesting angle to put on it.
Yeah,
that. But Brian Michael Bendis decided to write a comic about Jessica Jones called Alias. And in it, she and Luke Cage have anal sex. And it was a major, people freaked out about it. It was rough anal going on in a Marvel comic. People were not ready for that.
But I feel like comic books aren't really as like in like the general public's eyes they once were. Like little kids aren't just reading like, you know, whatever comics come out. It's more of like a thing that you have to seek out, I feel like.
Yeah, because like comic book movies are not made for comic book people anymore.
Well, they haven't really been ever.
You could argue 89 Batman was for comic book people.
Sure.
I would also argue that Logan was probably made towards comic book lovers because of how brutal it was.
Well, I love that movie.
Logan was the hey, Deadpool was good for being rated R. Let's make something better. Because I mean, love or hate Deadpool, it's not a good movie, and Logan is genuinely a good movie. You know.
Mm-hmm. I think I saw a fan film where it shows Deadpool going to Logan's grave with a metal detector trying to find him. I thought that was hilarious.
Moving on, we got another Star Wars. Funny thing about the Mandalorian, the real Mandalorian.
The
Mandarin.
We're still talking about Marvel.
God damn.
You knew having me on the show would make it get derailed into Marvel.
I mean, they're all one and the same at this point.
Yeah, sure.
Shang-Chi movie. Okay. Please don't give IDW Star Wars. I mean, IDW made some good Godzilla comics.
Oh, I never read them.
And Judge Dredd.
Judge Dredd.
Honestly, I said it back in the day when Marvel bought out Star Wars. Boom Studios would probably handle Star Wars the best. Like, no one's going to handle it well anymore. The days of Dark Horse taking care of something are well gone. Honestly, it should be just given to the fans. And, like, a select group of fans make the Star Wars comics. And run that. But that's just me being an anarchist at this point. Some sort of Karen Travis fan would get involved, and then things would deteriorate into clone Jedi love, Dylan's favorite pastime.
The first time they met, she describes feeling his presence in the Force as if she was sensing a child.
And then the next book, they're boning on the floor.
Oh my gosh.
You Republic Commando.
Why are you so good and yet so bad at the same time?
I know.
It's like
big series of books.
That's so interesting. That's a reversing of the whole sci-fi trope where there's like the girl who was just born yesterday and then becomes the romantic interest.
Oh, that'd be an interesting point. You know, since you said it, I'm pretty sure Karen Travis listens to this podcast, obviously, because she hates our guts at this point for making fun of her for like a good 50% of the episode.
You're so good at lore building. Why are you so terrible at? You're so good at lore building and like action scenes. Why are you so terrible at like the love stuff?
Why do you write the worst Jedi characters and some of the best at the same time? There is no middle ground for like mediocre Jedi. They are either very fascinating, like anti-Jedi, or they're just like dumbasses. Or Ahsoka. Her portrayal.
Well, she didn't really have a choice with Ahsoka. She just had to.
Oh, you can tell. You can tell in No Prisoners when she's writing about Ahsoka that is the most begrudging experience. Basically, everyone's like, "Okay, Ahsoka, you're a little brat." Like for the whole book, it's great. 10 out of 10. We love Ahsoka on here. Just wish DC would get a shot at Star. No, take that back. Maybe
DC's floundering now. I mean, they're talking about shutting it all down.
That's maybe you should have thought of not having Zack Snyder direct all of your films.
They want to like shut down like the I didn't realize. I don't know. I think that I think Disney should just get it if they're gonna shut it down. Or
Ender, you cannot promote a monopoly like that. You cannot do that on this podcast.
I've been saying this for over 15 years now. Disney is just the Standard Oil of the 21st century.
Yeah,
the sooner you realize this, the better.
No, I agree. I agree that it's horrible. I don't want it to disappear. Like that's some of my favorite lores in DC. But
I mean, you are a big Green Lantern fan.
I am. I would love to see Jeff Johns involved with Star Wars, but
I thought you were going to say Jeff Goldblum for a second there.
No.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, that too, though.
I would love to see the Portlandia Star Wars crossover. Is it weird that when I think Jeff Goldblum now, I think Portlandia? With a fly. It's like the opposite side of Jeff Goldblum's acting.
Interestingly enough, I saw a meme out there whenever the whole Spider-Man drama was happening that just like Disney was Spider-Man, Sony doesn't want to sell Spider-Man to Disney. Disney by Sony.
I mean, I think they realized that like that would be like a money pit.
Yeah,
by Sony.
You don't want to.
That would be one. That'd be like if the United States annexed, insert random Central American country that we disrupted their economy and their way of life in the 80s, and they're still recovering from. Like, it's a bad idea. There's no value in it. Moving on to get that. This is only phase 1 of the High Republic stuff.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, they might bring him in.
I doubt it. The only reason I think James Luceno wrote the 2 new canon books he did was he was under contract. We know for sure he was under contract for Tarkin.
Because Tarkin was supposed to be an EU book.
Yeah.
They had to switch it.
Yeah, those first 4 were EU books or contracts for EU books, because, I mean, A New Dawn was not going to be what it was. Heir of the Jedi was a name. And I'm pretty sure Lords of the Sith was a thing, too. And, I mean, you could even make the argument that Dark Disciple was also probably a contract deal with Christie Golden. Any of the old writers coming back, with the exception of Timothy Zahn, was a strategic choice.
I think all the original 5 books were all under contract that they had to do.
Yeah, pre-Aftermath.
Now, Timothy Zahn is writing the new Thrawn books, right?
Of course,
yeah. He's writing the 3rd Thrawn trilogy. There's a trilogy of Thrawn trilogies now.
Well, the thing is, the 2nd Thrawn trilogy doesn't even feel like a Thrawn trilogy. It feels like 3 standalone books.
It's more like a multiverse of Thrawn.
Yeah, it's like the Rebels tie-ins with Thrawn. Because they were solely written to be Rebels tie-ins, and it's kind of upsetting that they would do that. Because I'll give Zahn credit. They are written better than Allegiance and Choices of One. They are written better than Scoundrels. They aren't good. I would not put them above like the Thrawn trilogy in certain regard. In some ways, they're better written than Thrawn trilogy. Thrawn trilogy is kind of clunky. It's kind of clunky
it's also kind of dated.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think the gold standard for Thrawn is for Zahn, that matter, is either Outbound Flight or Hand of Thrawn duology.
I haven't made it to the Legends version of the Thrawn trilogy yet. I think that's like somewhere down the line. But
you're forewarned. They are written for people who've never read Star Wars before. I think that's why people like them the best, is because they never read anything quite like it. There are good moments in them, but there are some like dated 90s like
if I hate to say it, but the Thrawn trilogy might be the correct answer in what do you read first, not because it's the best thing to read, but because if you've read other EU and then go to the Thrawn trilogy, you're probably not going to like it as much.
Remember when Tristan was miserable reading Heir to the Empire and complained about it at every Minox nest?
Remember Minox Nest?
I was on one like a few months ago. We won't go into that.
I feel like this should be subtitled "The less said about this, the better."
It was fine. It just
we have a lot of Voldemorts on this podcast.
It wasn't Binox Nest 19 and 19 and a half. Known as I will never get public office because I was associated with those. And there's a good chunk of that got edited out. oh, the bad memories.
So Project Luminous.
Yeah. Fuck Project Luminous. Basically. Actually, I don't know. I'll read Charles Soule's book, but mainly because I'm curious to see how he writes a novel.
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to give it a chance. I honestly think it looks interesting, and it very well could be good. So, but I'll give it a chance first before I say anything about it.
Jacob, I forgot that Bendis wrote Superman.
Bendis wrote Superman? What?
It's bad.
Which Superman did he write?
It was a comic run. I don't remember. It's bad though. God has and also, to be honest, I don't will ever shut down. You know what? I should be reading these out loud for the podcast.
You should.
It dawned on me that I should be doing this, but I hate reading out loud. So
it just dawns on me that I upload these to iTunes after, so the people aren't going to see the comments to know what we're talking about.
And I'm not editing this at all. Like I'm going full lazy mode because I don't have to edit out quarters. So Jacob says, "God, as bad as DC is, never ever say that Disney should buy it." Also, to be honest, I don't think DC will ever shut down. It's too profitable an IP farm to shut down. We'll see.
We should just have Bruce Wayne buy DC. Problem solved.
Yeah, that's Elon Musk.
Yeah. I don't think they weren't gonna get rid of like the main characters. Like if they were gonna shut it down like they're talking about, they would maintain like Batman movies and like maybe like other characters like the Flash, but there wouldn't be like a whole continuity with the comics and whatnot.
You mean we'd never get the Blue Beetle movie no one asked for? Or how about Crazy Quilts? We need a Crazy Quilts movie.
Have you heard they're wanting to do Flashpoint with Ezra Miller to reboot the DCEU?
Ew. Flashpoint sucks.
Do you remember the Flashpoint Arrowverse?
Yeah.
Arc? The Arrowverse is such a mess. It's so bad.
Well, that's CW doing CW things than trying to write a plot around it.
Yeah, I honestly, it was like one of the last seasons of The Flash I just stopped watching. And it just got a little too soap opera.
Oh, it was like that.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said it's been like that since pretty much like day one, really.
Yeah.
Jeremy said like Smallville.
Smallville is unbearable. I'm shocked they haven't referenced Smallville.
They have.
They have?
Yeah, and the Infinite Crisis
has the Clark Kent, the guy who played Clark Kent. Has he showed up as Superman? I know Superman's been in Supergirl, but it's a different actor.
Can I? Is it all right if I do a spoiler on this?
Dude, no one gives a fuck about the
Arrowverse. So on the Arrowverse, on the CW verse of Infinite Crisis, they travel to different universes, and one of them is Smallville, and it shows Tom Welling as Clark Kent, but he Lex Luthor goes over there to kill him, but he finds out that he doesn't have his powers anymore because he wanted to quit being Superman and start a family.
That's kind of dumb.
That is really stupid.
I can respect his decision to want to do that, but the only thing that bothered me about it was like, man, they gave us like almost 7 to 8 years worth of this show, and then like in the course of 2 minutes, they just said, "Oh, hey, you guys like this show? Yeah, he finally became Superman," and we just decided, like, yeah, I'm gonna quit being Superman after like 4 years,
with his awful black suit.
That's a weird timeline to imply exists. Yeah, I saw like maybe half in various small chunks of that sort of 3-episode climax for the Crisis story arc in the Arrowverse, and I hadn't seen any of like the shows in years leading up to it, so I just had no idea like what was going on with the stuff that they changed, and it was very campy. It felt very like 90s style.
I think my favorite part of the clips that I saw was when Lex Luthor was trying to punch a depowered Clark Kent. Clark grabbed his hand and knocked him out, and he says, "Hey, I'm still stronger."
Jesus Christ.
Oh, I gotta put this on. I thought it was an interesting casting choice. They got the guy that played Alan from 2.5 Men to be Lex Luthor.
What?
Yeah, I'm not kidding. It's
It's
Alan from 2.5 Men playing Lex Luthor, and I didn't recognize him at first because they shaved his head still, but he has a beard. So I'm not kidding. Like, go look this up. It's kind of interesting.
For those of you listening to this, I'm scowling right now. But the sad thing is, this is better casting than anything in the Zack Snyder movie.
Yeah.
And before RK Outpost starts shitting on me right now, I have no idea why you like those films. They're fucking unwatchable. I don't even think they're films. Can we come to a consensus here that any Zack Snyder film post 300, actually 300 is debatable of whether it's a film or not, is not film. It's just utter schlock.
No, well, 300's a great how-to slow motion effects.
300 is the post-production movie. I think they filmed with the actors for 1 month. They got them in shape in 2 months. They did all those tire exercises. Then they filmed them on a green screen, and then they're like, okay, the effects team will take it from here.
I wonder if you turned all the slow-mo shots to real speed, how long the movie would actually be.
Probably an hour. 300 is not that great. I mean, it's nice that someone aside from Frank Miller himself directing could get the vision of 300, his comic, down without him heavily involved, because Frank Miller is a crazy person. Much as I love his work, he is insane, absolutely insane. I mean, that's why we got The Spirit, the movie. Someone decided that that Frank Miller was directing material, and Jimbo Joe is already jumping in on this because Jimbo Joe and I went to middle school together and high school, so he's heard my Frank Miller stuff before.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually one time on Facebook, just for fun, I asked, "Who is your top 5 favorite Batman villains?" And my old roommate commented saying, Joker, Riddler, Scarecrow, and at the top he put Frank Miller.
I love that Frank Miller wrote Batman, and I hate it at the same time, because it is a 50-50 machine. 2 of the best Batman stories are written by him. Also, 2 of the worst are written by him. It's debatable whether he wrote Dark Knight 3: The Master Race, or if that was Brian Azzarello pretending to be Frank Miller. Because Frank Miller is very sickly now, I do believe. If he's still alive. I'm pretty sure he's still alive. But he was really poor health.
So at the risk of killing our view count as they all switch streams, I can't believe Matt chose right now to do his 5,000 subscriber celebration stream.
I noticed the notice.
Serious? That's son of a bitch.
I saw a notification of that. I'm just like, oh, hey, good for him.
There we go. This is when
this is when the view count drops to 0.
Yeah.
We should just go crash his live stream.
I mean, like, I was only going to try to keep this an hour, and we got like 6 minutes, so we will descend upon him with wrath. For doing this. I'll give him for 5,000 subscribers. I hit 400 this year. Or was that the end of last year? I don't remember.
I hit 15 like last week, and for me, just now starting YouTube, I'm actually proud of that. So
yeah,
for sure.
I mean, I was subscribed to Matt back in 2014 when he had less than 50. So
I remember, like, that was when I joined in too. Us defending the EU back in the day.
Oh, I got to throw this out. Also, in the Crisis on Infinite Earths, they actually brought in Ezra Miller's Flash in a cameo scene, and he and like Barry Allen are like looking at each other's the Grant Gustin's Barry Allen are like looking at each other's costumes, like, oh man, this is awesome. I want to try that. You know, I thought that was actually kind of funny to see.
I actually did enjoy that, probably more than most of the other parts of it.
Right. I mean, because to me, I'm just like, oh hey, they can do maybe they can add more crossovers like that and bring back more viewers or something.
You know, it would be a great Marvel thing to do.
What?
Mainly Sony. Edge of Spider-Verse, like this sort of thing. I know they did it animated, but like Sam Raimi directs. We get all three guys who are Peter Parker as Spider-Man.
Like a live action.
Yeah. Get Emma Stone to be Spider-Gwen. Actually, isn't she like Phantom Spider is what they're calling her now?
Ghost Spider.
Wait,
Spider?
Ghost?
It's
not Spider?
No, it's
wait, why?
They got renumbered for like the 5th time.
I have no idea.
Been a character for 5 years. It's the dumbest thing.
Really, like in my opinion, the only reason that Spider-Gwen was so successful is because her costume is so striking. Like you see that costume, you want to read it.
Interesting concept at the time. It was the right time to do it because like no one gave two shits about Gwen Stacy for the most part, unless you were a serious comic fan, until the Amazing Spider-Man made her like a cool character. Like not that Gwen Stacy was a bad character, but like she had been dead for decades, and like you don't, except for JMS brought her back in Sin's Past, or kind of, sort of. We won't get into Sin's Past on here because that is a whole nother can of worms on this Star Wars podcast.
Yeah, remember we talked about Star Wars?
Remember when we did a 2-hour podcast where I shit on a bunch of things and then we didn't release it because you kept throwing quarters on the table? Or remember the time that we did a Phantom Menace throwback and you just stopped talking after 2 minutes?
I didn't have anything to say.
He just stopped, and he didn't have his cam on, so I didn't know if he left the room or not, so I just kept talking. Fill space. And I said, you know what, are you there? And he's like, yeah. I said, fuck this. We're done. We're done with this episode. I'm never going to release it. I deleted it.
And that's when we learned not to shoot back-to-back episodes.
And then we did it again. And the reverse happened, where I was grumpy for our first 2-hour episode, and you kept playing with change with your Goodwill microphone. And I said, fuck it, let's do another one. Yeah, good times.
I'm sorry, I'm still laughing.
Okay.
Like you just you unloaded on him.
Yeah, this is.
I have to talk to. This is what it was like when we flew together.
Yeah,
Actually, we didn't actually fly together. We were on the same plane, but we were way far apart.
Mm-hmm.
On there, like Dylan was close to the front, and I was at the very back of the plane.
Somehow I see this going you're way in the back, yelling like, "Hey, do you remember when we were making that podcast and you kept counting quarters on the table?"
That was Dylan. That was episode 19. We filmed at Matt's house with Matt.
Yeah,
and we did a live stream. And you have your weird ass computer that is in that weird keyboard format you like to type in.
It's the superior keyboard.
Don't you start with that.
Because it's faster.
Wait, what format is it?
Faster.
I use a Dvorak keyboard.
Oh.
Because he's a fucking hipster.
No, because the keys are arrayed in a place that the ones you hit the most are either on the home row or the top row, and are the closest to your index finger.
In the standard keyboard, I hit the keys just fine.
The standard keyboard was invented to slow you down so you don't jam the typewriter.
You know what? Sometimes it's good to type slowly.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it does slow you down. I've definitely read about like the different formats, but in my experience, I can't even type like as fast as people get to on traditional keyboards, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, like my wife's a writer, and I've seen her like write her books, and she's just like flawlessly, just like going at it like she's like a machine or something like that. I'm just like, how do you do that?
It's all practice with both keyboards. It's just practice.
Yeah.
But Dvorak's faster because you don't have to. Dvorak, once you get the practice, is faster than a practice QWERTY because you don't have to move your fingers nearly as far. They also make Dvorak left and right-handed for amputees. Oh. Or there's specialized Dvorak keyboards for left and right-handed for amputees who can only have one hand to type with.
You would know that, John Sadler. You would definitely know that. I'm just saying that Dylan isn't who he says he is. And you're trying to mislead these poor people that are in this chat.
I'm already seeing people who are in our chat on Matt's chat now.
I know. They all left. They all fucking left. They said, fuck this. Dylan's not throwing quarters around with his Goodwill mic. Like they're done. They're done. They're done with us. I don't even want to talk about Project Luminous anymore. I was done with it 10 minutes in. I don't want to, dude. I quit. I quit the Legends podcast. That's what I'm saying. It's Ender's podcast now.
It's just going to become a Green Lantern Jeff Johns podcast, and it'll just be me talking about that episode after episode.
Yeah, no. Do we want to get into what we're reading? I literally have nothing else to talk about.
Like I said, I'm on book 2 of Darth Bane trilogy. So,
how far are you into Rule of 2?
Well, I'm on the audio, so I think I'm on about like, oh geez. Here, let me just get my phone and I'll just.
How old is Zana?
Kid, yeah.
I'm sorry, what? How old is Zana?
Yeah.
It's like at that point where Darth Bane just saved her from these group of people about to kill her. Let me see.
That doesn't narrow it down.
Is she still like 9-year-old Zana?
I'm on chapter 10.
Okay.
So she's probably adult sleeper agent Zana.
Yeah, she before the what was like Darth Bane was like flying these giant flying creatures and he killed a bunch of people or something like that to save Zana.
Oh, okay. I vaguely remember that. That's pretty awesome. Dude, the ending of that book is like one of the best things I've ever seen ever.
The Rule of 2.
I thought it was a little contrived in how it resolved itself, but that final battle was epic, though.
Oh God! In Dynasty of Evil, it's also pretty awesome too. But I can't spoil that for you. You need to witness that, and then look at the art in the Essential Reader's Companion that goes with Rule of 2. There's a really cool painting in there.
Oh, I didn't know. Well, like I said, I only have the audiobook, so I'll have to.
No, not in the Pablo Hidalgo's Essential Reader's Companion.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Okay.
Well, yeah, okay.
Ender doesn't read Star Wars ever.
I'm still reading.
It's been a very long time.
Ender, why did you interrupt Dylan?
But
why did you do it? No, I didn't say your name. I did
It's
say
on
your
the
name.
screen. My real name's on the screen.
I know. I mean, we could pitch my idea when we were at work one day, and I was bored, and I decided I wanted to remake Ender's Game, and just have Ender star as a small child by doing like Dwarf on Golf, where he's just on his knees and he like attach shoes to his knees, and I would just be Harrison Ford's character, looking like I need a nap.
Oh my!
Probably a week after we've been working together, one of the first things that you said to me was, "You need to star in my Highlander fan film I'm making." I was like, who's making a Highlander fan film in 2018?
That was me, because I realized someone told me you competed fencing.
Oh yeah, I did.
And I was like, oh, I want to have a sword fight with this guy on camera, and we'll make it into a Highlander fan film. I forgot all about that. I wrote
probably sleeping when it happened.
No, Dylan, this was not the Gen Con trip that I was very drunk for most of and don't remember chunks of it.
Oh yeah, you told me and Steve about that once.
Oh,
at work, and
he passed out for an hour, and I woke up next to a bunch of neckbeards, and I wondered what happened with my life.
Yes.
Or when this very nice lady was trying to teach me how to play a board game, and I fell asleep. That was another good one. Did we talk about these in the last podcast? Did I edit out my jokingly drunk things just so I can put them in this one? This is still not as bad as the times I fought with Tristan while he was drunk on Skype, or the various drunk shenanigans I try to do while on Skype calls with Dylan and everyone.
Yeah, like the time you forgot how stairs worked.
Oh, when I was too drunk to walk, and I needed to go up a couple flights of stairs. So I tried to.
If you ever wondered what it looks like for a slinky to go up a set of stairs, those of us on that Skype call found out the answer.
Dude, I attempted to roll up the stairs, and it didn't fucking happen. So I had to crawl up the stairs. What was I drinking that night, Dylan? Do you remember? Was it that awful bison grass vodka that I called Edward juice? It might have been that.
What?
Oh, so there was this guy called Darth Grosser, and he and I had a beef on YouTube because I kicked him out of our Facebook group for being an asshole. He's actually being an asshole to Jimbo Joe, to be honest, and I just kicked him out. And we had a little YouTube war, and fucking every time so I made a video sober. I think I made a can rant about him called "The Reason You Were Banned," and then he made a video back trying to guilt me or something. So then by this point I was just drinking. It was bison grass vodka someone gave me for my 21st birthday. I think it was my friend, because he didn't want to drink it anymore. Literally had a piece of grass this long in the bottle, and so I was drinking that fucking Darth Grosser, you fucker. And made a video, just bashing his channel, and that was about the end of it. That was also how the Geeks Addict became admin of the redacted Star Wars group we were a part of, until we were forcefully kicked from it for no real reason other than Tyrant bullshit. Because we needed several admins to get rid of all of Darth Grosser's spam accounts and troll accounts. He had at least 8 of them in there initially. And then we removed a ton more. It was a nightmare back in the day. He was a good soldier in the beginning of the EU movement, but I think in hindsight he caused more trouble than he helped. Because the Swag 77 thing, I don't think would have nearly been as bad as if if he hadn't been involved in that. Him and other members of another podcast that we used to be on. But yeah. Dylan, what are you reading?
I'm still reading the third Coruscant Nights book.
It's all right. I'm still reading Shadowhunter. I think I've been reading that longer. Why are we both stuck on Michael Reeves books?
You're on the good Michael Reeves book, though.
I am, but I just keep getting too much homework. I read like five different books for homework every weekend. I've not had time to read.
Yeah,
and
honestly, the same.
It upsets me that none of his books have unabridged audiobooks.
They don't?
None of them do.
Not even The Last Jedi, the newest one?
The Last Jedi, I don't think even has an audiobook.
Yeah. Oh, the Legends one. No, it doesn't. I looked for it.
No, it doesn't. And I don't think any of Coruscant Nights does either. I think MedStar does and Shadowhunter.
I wonder if they did that with Last Jedi because they're about to release the Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
No, there was this short era where before Penguin Random House got the rights to Star Wars, they had another company, and there's just like a year where they didn't have audiobooks. Because Choices of One, that's a Zahn book, doesn't have an audiobook at all.
Oh, okay.
You'd think if anyone would get an audiobook, it'd be Timothy Zahn. So, yeah. There's this whole era of Star Wars EU where they're all just abridged audiobooks. And it went for a really long time, and it upsets me greatly.
Yep.
Yeah, part of the Han Solo, the whole Han Solo trilogy is all abridged.
Abridged. Most of Bantam's abridged. All of New Jedi Order is abridged. All of Legacy of the Force is abridged. Most of the Clone Wars books are abridged.
The novelizations aren't abridged, even though they came out during that time.
Yeah, and neither is the Thrawn Trilogy.
Well, the Thrawn Trilogy, they went back and they did for the 20th anniversary. That's why those and the Hand of Thrawn duology are unabridged.
Oh yeah, because Survivor's Quest is abridged, and so is Outbound Flight. That's right. But Scoundrels is unabridged, and so is is Allegiance unabridged? I don't remember. This doesn't matter. It's not a good book.
Well, I could bring up Audible and find out.
This is what we need right now. Yeah. I mean, I read the first issue of the Kylo Ren comic.
I heard that was actually not too bad.
It's okay. It's got good art. It's kind of weird. It's hard for me to care at this point because they were like, we're going to have a Knights of Ren movie. And it's like, no, you're not, bitch.
So far...
Everything new canon is unabridged. It's the new canon's got going for it.
Let's see. Here we go. Here's a Legends book, Darth Maul Knockdown, unabridged. So,
well, that was one of the last ones. It would be.
Outcast, unabridged.
Yeah, all of the Jedi is unabridged.
All of Fate of the Jedi. From about 2009 onward, they're all unabridged.
Yeah, because the Clone Wars movie novelization is abridged, but the Clone Wars TV show tie-in books are unabridged.
The Kevin J. Anderson books, the Jedi Search, that's abridged.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Jedi Academy books. I just remembered I was going to go into something before we got into the show with you. Because Adam was like, I don't like that the Clone Wars messed with the timeline, the show. But I don't think you fully understand how bad the timeline shifts if you take Clone Wars as 100% truth.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know until you read Clone Wars Wild Space by Karen Miller. When you find out that Anakin, who was knighted about halfway through the Clone War, was suddenly knighted 3 months into the Clone War instead of a year and a half to 2 years in. And that suddenly half of the Clone War happened in 3 months, which is physically impossible.
There's a great video by Captain Fordo on YouTube that goes over because just the timeline itself of how that shift over essentially erases more than half of the Clone Wars multimedia projects. Because all that all those stories need to either happen in 2 months or they didn't happen at all.
I mean, like things like Jabim, which is referenced in the Clone Wars novelization of the film, and like things. Karen Travis still references things from the other Clone Wars material because she was writing beforehand, but Karen Miller doesn't. Karen Miller's thing is like Obi-Wan and Bail went to Sagula, and Obi-Wan got poisoned by the dark side, and Bail had to protect him. That was what Wild Space was about. That sounds like enough material for a short story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not like a 300-page novel.
Oh my gosh!
And then there was a Stealth and Gambit where the conflict was Obi-Wan wants to know what happened to Anakin on Tatooine, but he doesn't want to say. And Anakin wants to know what happened on Obi-Wan on the Sith planet, but he doesn't want to say. And you have this conflict, and it's like, okay, so I guess they're going to trade information, and that's how they're going to get over it. But then, like, they just don't.
No. The thing is,
and I know why, but still, why do you set that conflict up if you know you can't pay it off?
What kills me Stealth and Siege is that why does it have to be Anakin and Obi-Wan involved in Stealth and Siege? Why couldn't it be other Jedi? Why does it have to be Anakin and Obi-Wan are sent behind enemy lines to stop Locked?
They were all 10,000 other Jedi were busy, I guess.
I was about to say they're the Jedi Dream Team, I guess.
The only thing worth like mentioning positive for Stealth and Siege is it's the best Ahsoka storyline, because when Ahsoka's when she's involved, because she's not very involved in it, but her stuff is pretty awesome.
Right. It's just so happens that her stuff also involves Obi-Wan's love interest number 26.
You know, you were asking about like how come Anakin and Obi-Wan were always on these missions. I kind of see like Fred from Scooby-Doo like assigning like, okay, Shaggy and Scooby, you take over here. Anakin and Obi-Wan, you take that mission over there. Something like that.
It is the most asinine thing. Like what kills me with those is that like we have the third Obi-Wan love interest is introduced. I don't even call her a love interest. That was his side ass. They have no chemistry other than they are sexually attracted to each other and occasionally sleep with each other. Who is dying of shellfish poisoning. Space shellfish.
Unironically, yeah.
He literally ate something and is slowly dying because it's poisoning her. And there's nothing that anyone can do in the Jedi Temple for it, and Obi-Wan has to deal with this, but she has never been brought up ever, and this causes another schism between Anakin and Obi-Wan. Because it's like, what do you mean that Obi-Wan has a side ass and and he's like going to be against my wife? It's like,
and again, this is why the Obi-Wan harem doesn't make sense, right? Because when it was just Siritashi and the storyline was I could have, but I didn't, it opened up this great aspect between the two of them relationships where Anakin literally cannot confide in his own master about Padme because his master was in that same situation and did what the Jedi Code deemed was the right decision. So he knew he couldn't confine his master because he just wouldn't understand because he was there. He was in that same decision and he made the other choice. But now that he has like a literal harem.
Yeah, like, what was it? Duchess Satine?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, you can't ignore Satine because she's mentioned in Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
Which is infuriating. Like when you're trying to fix Clone Wars stuff, which we delve into a whole lot in the last episode.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
you can't
because it's just tied into so many different things. Plagueis references Clone Wars.
Well, yeah, with Mother Talzin's in.
Yeah, Mother. Oh, she's not in it, but she's mentioned, and the fact that Maul is from Dathomir and he has a twin brother, that's all in Plagueis. And it's like, you can't just get rid of Plagueis because it's one of the best expanded universe novels out there.
It makes sense of the Phantom Menace.
I'm sorry. It makes what?
It makes sense out of the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I actually appreciated the Phantom Menace a lot more after I read that book.
Like, and on top of that, like, you can't get rid of like the Mortis episodes because that would ruin Fate of the Jedi's climax. Like, that's tied up. God, there's so many things. Although the Nautilin's blinking is Dylan's favorite thing about the Clone Wars.
It's not the Nautilins, it's just Kit Fisto. They don't have eyelids. How did he blink?
That's true. Because they're aquatic.
They don't possess eyelids. They don't have them. How did he blink?
How did Kit Fisto survive Geonosis without eyelids?
They have like a membrane or something.
That would suck still.
How, I mean, without eyelids, how does he even like...
Well, snakes don't have eyelids.
That's true.
Now, is he supposed to be like an aquatic type alien, like an amphibian type alien?
Yes. Nautilins are kind of weird because they're supposed to be aquatic in that their home planet is their home planet Gliansalem. It's like part of it's underwater and the other part's land, and the Nautilin are like the underwater people, but they're like the only alien race that is equally like adaptable on land and in water. Like they can do both and not like suffer detriments, where every other one is better at one than the other. They have like some sort of like handicap when going to the one that they're not suitable for, whereas Nautilins are equally competent in both.
I was about to say, because if he was more amphibian, kind of like a frog, then how would he be able to survive on Geonosis, though, with the sun temperatures like drying up his skin?
Yeah. It's I just love that he blinks. I also love that they didn't even try to match up his voice from Genndy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars.
Yeah, he had the who voiced him? Do you remember?
In which?
In the Clone Wars, he had a Coruscanti accent, which just makes sense because, you know, in my opinion, most Jedi from that age should have a Coruscanti accent because they were literally taken from their families as children and grew up on Coruscant.
Yeah, it would make sense. But he has this weird Jamaican accent in
it's very odd.
Wars. It's to me, like, that was bad. It wasn't as bad as Quinlan Voss's voice. How I never wanted Quinlan Voss to sound is how they voiced him in Filoni's Clone Wars. Basically anything with Quinlan Voss's character I didn't like in Filoni's Clone Wars. That's the same... I just remembered, that's the same episode where Zero the Hutt talks to the Tony Montana Hutt, the Don Corleone Hutt.
Oh my god.
And, like, the Ray Liotta Hutt.
I forgot... Oh my god!
Happened? Did you see the new episode of Clone Wars where we had the Rambo clone?
Yeah, no, it's
wait. Okay, so can I talk about this whole Bad Batch situation with the clones? I know they were purposely messed with to be a Bad Batch, but they're named after 99, which was the defective clone, right? That was around in Clone Wars, and this is such like a microcosm of what TCW gets wrong, is because the Kaminoans would not have had a Bad Batch. They would not have had a defective clone. This is in the Republic Commandos. There was a single ARC trooper that in one of the blaster training exercises scored 1 point off a perfect score. And the next day, every single clone from that batch went missing.
Yeah, they euthanized him. That's why, like, Ordo and the other Knolls were such a big deal in Republic Commando, because they they weren't obedient, and it was Scarada that decided that they couldn't be euthanized.
Mm-hmm. And they did euthanize. They euthanized half of them. There were originally 12 gnolls. There was only 6 by the time Scarada got there, and saved the rest of them.
Yeah.
And because of that, we tried tampering with it, and then it backfired on us. They didn't tamper with it again.
I will say that episode of Clone Wars was pretty awesome. It's my favorite episode of the entire series.
I quite liked it. When I saw the trailer, the trailer where they were talking about, it was one of the later ones where they reveal that they're going to be having the quote unquote Bad Batch. The other clones, there's some footage where they're talking about how they're different, and I immediately assumed that they were going to portray the later clones that they made. I guess that's not really. I don't think that's in the new con, but the clones that were made that were more obedient and didn't have like full autonomy towards the end of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, the Rebel Commando novels do hint the fact that they were using other cloning. They were using non-communal sources for clones, and they were growing them out in like a year
for the 501st.
For the 501st and other in other units as well, but the 501st was one of them.
God, it's so. Also, Echo is still alive. Spoilers. That was a weird thing to throw in there. Ender.
What?
That Echo is still alive.
No, I don't get that. That's weird.
I don't.
Is he like hooked up, or they brainwash him, or
is it just his brain?
That'd be pretty dark for considering it's still fundamentally it started off as a children's show. I mean, having things on exclusive channels now, it's kind of like streaming services. It's kind of, you can have more fluid demographics, but that's pretty like intense for.
I just think of how dark Karen Travis would take it. Because I always think, because Filoni and Travis hate each other. That this is pretty much a fact as far as like I'm concerned. He's the reason she left Lucasfilm. Just what he did with the Mandalorians alone, like riled her up. Because I mean, like those were her people. That was her whole thing was the Mandalorians, and like how the Mandalorians were this warrior race that like adopted one another and stuff, and they didn't say this is the way, and they took their helmets off from time to time. Which, can I just say, in the Mandalorian, that's so stupid, because it contradicts Clone Wars and Rebels, where the Mandalorians are taking their helmets off all the time. Sabine spends most of Rebels without her helmet on.
Yeah, that is a really good point.
I've only seen like I keep getting like distracted from the Mandalorian. I've only seen like 4 episodes, but yeah, the amount of time he spent talking about how he can never take his helmet off, it doesn't make any sense.
Which episode did you see? Did you see the one where like the guy who hires him for a job betrays him, or was it the one where like he takes a job with another guy who betrays him, or was it that other one where he takes a job with like 3 guys and they all betray him?
I think
I haven't finished. I saw the last one I saw was the one where he works with the ex-shock trooper. So I'm not that far.
The what's her face from Deadpool.
Oh, that's like the one where the guy he teams up with doesn't betray him.
That's the only episode of it. Yeah.
I watched them all. My aunt and uncle showed me them. We binged the entire thing, and I'm just like, this guy. Literally, the plot of almost every episode is he gets betrayed.
Yeah. And they walk down a hallway for an episode.
Season 2, Baby Yoda betrays him.
Baby Yoda throws one of those weird desert, like Star Wars rhinos at him. That was dumb. How did he survive that? Even with that kind of armor. That is the one thing, though, like Dylan was telling me, because Dylan saw this before I did. because I had no desire to watch this, but I got like talked into it. I like that the Mandalorian armor is like a special thing still.
Yeah.
And that only some people can forge it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
Which that was actually
that's
again, that was stolen from Legends, because in Legends only the Mandalorian smiths knew how to use how to make Mandalorian iron, but the Empire mined it dry. And it's kind of in Legacy of the Force, there's a subplot where they find a new vein of it that they can make more Mandalorian armor out of it, so they don't have to use Durasteel in old versions.
Huh. Yeah, I like the whole idea of like reclaiming the ore from the Empire. That was an interesting idea thematically for the.
It doesn't really pay off. I'm just warning you now.
Yeah, I can already start. I can already start to feel the show, like, I don't know, kind of wavering.
Can we talk about the Dark Saber, or do you not want to talk about that, Ender, because you haven't seen that?
I mean, I haven't seen it, but I also probably should go because I haven't eaten anything in too long.
All right.
And...
All right. See you, dude. Thanks for having
me.
All
right. Thanks for having me.
All right. Why the unholy fuck does the Dark Saber mean anything to Mandalorian people?
I know, right?
It doesn't make any sense.
I guess because the first Mandalorian Jedi, I don't know, sentimental reasons.
But they stole it. That was established in Clone Wars. They stole that stupid lightsaber, and it is a stupid lightsaber.
Yeah, the canon version of Darth Bane's lightsaber was going to look something like that too, except it was going to have like a long pike on it with like a red, it was going to look like the Dark Saber, I think, but it was going to just be red instead.
I don't mind it being a Dark Saber because Dark Sabers do exist in the EU.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a book called Dark Saber.
Yeah, I saw that at the bookstore the other day.
But it's not about a lightsaber. Well,
No.
Technically.
No, but you could have black lightsabers in like the Star Wars games and stuff.
Yeah, Force Unleashed had them too. So.
Well, Force Unleashed is barely a video game.
Yeah,
a walking simulator that you walk through stormtroopers while swinging your lightsaber around.
My roommate, when he first tried that game out, he was like, wow, I could beat the whole game just by spanning the force push button, you know?
Yeah. Throwing TIE fighters. That's when I said this is the dumbest thing I've ever played.
The only thing that was difficult about those games was the end Vader fight in the first game, and in both games. And the second game was only bad because of the platforming.
The second game had bad QuickTime events. So that was at that beginning when QuickTime became like the norm. There's some dumb QuickTime. I remember, I didn't die during the Vader fight in Force Unleashed 2. You know when I died? So I was fighting the 4 ATSTs before the Vader fight. This is the only time I died in my playthrough of Force Unleashed 2, and I was playing on hard.
I will give Force Unleashed 2 1+. I do like that moment in the fight pits when like they're about to send like the big bad like monster at you, and you're just like, oh man, what's it gonna be? Then it's like a Rancor, and you're kind of like, oh okay, I kill these all the time. Then the Rancor gets killed by that Gorak thing, and you're just like, oh okay, well,
yeah, and then you're falling with it, Dorada, and that's stupid. You know what's really stupid in Force Unleashed 2 is the Yoda cameo.
Oh, you mean that episode where you just walk, you collect one holocron, then you walk to the to a cutscene, and then the episode, then it's over.
You walk into the magic tree for fan service, and Yoda goes, "Hurr!" and that's it. That's all you do. What a waste of a game.
Yeah, that was. I think in Force Unleashed 1, what now kills it for me is like when he pulls a whole Star Destroyer out from space. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, what? No.
I unfortunately think that the Force Unleashed screws with so much continuity that it almost has to be S-canon.
Yeah, it takes a lot to fix it. The fact that Starkiller started the rebellion has always been something that I find irritating.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about it 2 episodes ago in the episode that will never be released of how much I fucking hate Force Unleashed. That was the beginning of not giving a shit about continuity. Because it doesn't make any fucking sense. And, like, in order to have Force Unleashed 3, you have to literally make sure everyone that's a main character in the Force Unleashed that is solely made for the Force Unleashed dies. And specifically, like, at Vader's or Boba Fett's hands dies.
I saw some reactions to Fallen Order when Vader first comes out.
Oh, God.
Yes. And, like, everybody's, like, freaking out. They're like, okay, well, this is how the whole game's going to... Vader's just going to come in and kill everyone, so...
That's a whole thing with the new canon we can get into that I can't stand, is the nerfing of Darth Vader when it comes to main characters, and how somehow Ezra Bridger, Kanan Jarrus, and Cal Kestis all have plot armor to survive Darth Vader, when not a single one of them made it past Padawan.
That's a good point, yeah.
It's like, also Ahsoka. That's another one. How is Ahsoka even holding her own against Vader? Mind you, this isn't like old Vader that we see fighting Luke. This is like still kind of a little out of his prime Vader, but he's still killing Jedi on a fairly regular basis. So, like, he's still, like, aware and, like, doing this shit, like, fighting the light side on a regular basis. And it's still, like, these people can hold their own. It doesn't make any sense. Quite frankly, I thought everyone should have died at the end of Rebels, but unfortunately, we gotta have the dumbest ending to a TV show ever.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, we don't know what happens to any of them, so they could be.
Well, isn't there droid in Rogue One?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, Hera's a main character in the Alphabet Squadron books.
Oh, she is? I haven't read that.
Oh, yeah. She's the only good part of Alphabet Squadron. I don't mind Hera being there. Hera makes sense. Although, why Twi'leks and humans can have kids is, like, something that will baffle my mind to the day I die.
Yeah, they touched on that, too, with the Last Shot book. Like, because doesn't Lando, like...
And and Kasha is her name? Yeah, like focaccia bread.
That was kind of a funny part of the book when I can't remember what species he is. He walks in on them like in bed, and then like they're both trying to cover up, and he's like, "Whoa, Twilight butt!" and "Whoa, human butt!" You know, it's just.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Wasn't that their hacker?
Yeah, or no, that was. I think it was a pilot that they hired.
There's a couple of dumb characters in that book. I just love the Gungan that isn't dumb.
I love that scene. That was like
joke in that whole book. Dylan is looking out there like miserable, like, oh, I hate Star Wars. I just want to throw my quarters all over the table. Don't you fucking do it.
This isn't even a quarter. It's I actually got this at Celebration. It's a wood chip coin.
I don't want that hidden at table. I will reach through and rip your Goodwill mic off of your ear.
I could just see him go like, "Why you little?"
It's made of wood, though.
I don't. No, I don't want to hear it on the table. I feel like I'm talking to a small child. Man, the coins. I apologize to the one viewer who's still watching this. Hello, Bradley.
I apologize to the one viewer that's still watching this. Bradley, hello there. Instantly. He said that before, because there's like a delay on the stream, so he literally said that before you said.
I know. Beautiful. It was meant to be. But, how can we... I just don't get how Twi'leks and humans can have children. And especially Hera and Kanan. I don't know when they got it on to create that monster.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like they've like kissed like what once, and
then he got engulfed in a fire with this terrible haircut.
And he's blind.
Yeah, well, he sees with the Force. He's like Neo. He suddenly.
You mean he's like Ram Koda?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot that they already did that in Star Wars. They filmed that a handful of times, though. The Jedi could see with the Force.
Yeah, there was in the Knights of the Old Republic, one of the comic, one of them had that.
Well, there was that species of like sect of humans that don't.
Yeah, I think that was her
without eyes.
Yeah, and they Force see.
They Force see, and then because there's that weird. Did you ever read the Tales comic, Stolen? Because there's a comic where Darth Nihil, or Nihilus, gives this. He finds this Force child, and he takes her as like his daughter / apprentice, and he gives her eyes, and they're just these black, soulless, nasty eyes. It's freaky weird. It's an interesting story. It's very short. But she considers him father because he gave her the ability to see.
Is this an Infinity's Tales or is
No, this was a tie into KOTOR 2. No, this was canon. It might actually be collected, now that I think about it. It might be in one of the Old Republic Marvel Epic collections. And Tales of the Jedi isn't. And I can see you stewing right now when the Tales of the Jedi has not been reprinted.
Well, I was actually thinking that. I just said like it's not an Infinity's Tales, and you knew what I meant by that. Because I was having a conversation with someone about the Star Wars books who wasn't into Star Wars books, and I was describing it's like, yes, there's different kinds of thing, and I used the term adult novels to refer to like the novels that weren't for children, and they're like, oh, Star Wars has adult novels, and I'm like, yeah, not like that.
Yeah, no, I've had similar conversation before. I mean, like if you read a Chuck Wendig book, I'm just saying that gets into porno territory, or E.K. Johnston. Actually, E.K. Johnston,
or in Legends, Troy Denning sometimes,
but it's not as bad as a new canon. Where we
actually Stackpole was probably the worst at that in the X-Wing books.
Well, the X-Wing comics, mandatory retirement. We get that mandatory ass. So, they're playing video games. It's fine.
Oh. I just thought it was funny timing.
You know, so I had an argument with Matt the other day, Dylan, about who was trying to seduce Ben in Legacy of the Force.
It was Tahiri.
That's what I said, and he said it wasn't. Because that's like the creepiest thing in the EU that I can think of.
Yeah, because Tahiri is like in her 30s and Ben's like 15, 14, 15.
I get to see you guys now going to his live stream and be like, hey, congrats on 5,000 subscribers. It was Tahiri, by the way.
You wouldn't know.
Because the scene was, because Tahiri was Jason Kaitis's like second apprentice, kind of.
Yeah.
And I forget what it was about, but they were trying to get the information to where Luke pretty much hid like the entire Jedi Order after the attack on the Praximate Yavin. And he went, and Jason and Ben, who was captured, wouldn't tell him. So Tahiri starts trying to seduce him to get the information out of him. And then, like, he doesn't. He's like, oh, well, I guess I'll just torture you and kill your friend then.
Oh.
Yeah. That Kaitis is Ben's cousin, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Jason Solo, yeah.
Yeah. Also, Ben was training under him at the beginning of the series?
Yeah, because Jason was Ben's master. I actually don't know if Ben got knighted ever, because that happened.
I do know that Ben kind of took a break from the Jedi at one point. I remember reading that, but
that was Jason.
I thought it was Ben. He went to
No, Jason after New Jedi Order, Jason like went on a sabbatical basically for like 8 years, and then came back right in time for the Dark Nest Crisis. Ben, after the events of Legacy of the Force, this isn't really that much of a spoiler because it happens like the first book, but Luke gets blamed for Jason's fall. So
you're saying Fate of the Jedi. You said
Fate of the Jedi, yeah. So Dala, who is chief of state at this point,
which who did that? Dala is always up to no good, and no.
She had a really good showing at the end of the Second Galactic Civil War. I'll say that.
I guess,
but yeah, Dala blames Luke, and Luke is kind of like, yeah, okay, sure. And then Luke exiles himself, though it's really like at Dala's. It's kind of like a mutual thing, but Dala basically exiles him, and Ben's like, I'll go with you.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's like the awesome part of that series.
One of them.
Yeah.
And then the Jedi Order is left in the hands of Kenneth Hamner, and boy, does he not do a good job.
Yeah. You know what would have been a great idea? If Luke left the Jedi Order in the hands of Kip.
He tried that because that basically anytime Luke leaves the order in charge of anyone else, it goes to terrible. Because there was a point in the Dark Nest Crisis where he had to go, and he left it in charge of I don't know if it was Korn or Kip, but it was one of them, and they started like a literal like almost civil war over the Jedi, over the Jedi Order that Luke had to come back and stop. Kip, I remember Kip literally at one point throws Korn into a bulkhead with the Force because he was so upset with him.
Nice. I just love that certain characters just get forgotten and then show up briefly in Fate of the Jedi. It's a handful.
Well, there is a little bit of a continuity error that there's a continuity error or something forgot because there's two Jedi, Streen and Karina T, who are both a part of Luke's first class at the Jedi Praxium at Yavin during the Jedi Academy trilogy, and it's stated that after the death of Mara, that they both went to Dathomir to establish a temple there to like train the Dathomiri in the Force and like recruit from there. Then Fate of the Jedi happens, and one of the things is that Luke can't go to a planet that has a Jedi establishment or found a Jedi establishment anywhere. But at one point in the book, they're forced to go to Dathomir, and it's not explained of why does he go to Dathomir when like supposedly Streen and Karina T are there making their own like off like not even a splinter, but like a subsidiary Jedi temple. But that's okay. But they don't even show up.
That is weird.
I don't know.
It's yeah. I mean, you have those occasionally. Dylan, you know what you should have read? Scourge. That was one you skipped, right? In New Republic.
Yeah, it wasn't Bantam.
Yeah, basically Dylan skipped 4 books, because there's a Zahn book you skipped then too. You skipped
I skipped Scourge, Survival's Quest, Shadows of Mindor, and
Shadowing Ghost.
Yeah, because they were all Del Rey editions later.
Shadowing Ghost is a nothing book. Luke Skywalker and the Door is just a bad book.
Oh, really? I actually bought that book. I was going to read it.
People love it because they like Matthew Stover. Matthew Stover.
Yeah, he doesn't like Matthew. Anytime he says a book about Matthew Stover is bad, just take it with that he doesn't like Matthew Stover.
Before I like Revenge of the Sith, I decided in my last read through that I do like that book. It's fine. It's not great, but it is great. It's kind of pretentious, is why I don't like it so much. This is the end of an era. It's like, fuck, I know it is. You don't have to fucking say it. Or, this is Anakin right now. Like, okay, that's nice.
I like the intro. I like the intro bit of like the kids that were watching the invasion on like.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's when and like talking from the perspective of the people that was fascinating. What wasn't fascinating was when they said, "This is Anakin right now," like 6 times in the book. Like I needed one at the beginning because I realized that this was the gimmick he was going to do for all of the characters. And I liked at the end where this is Anakin forever. And it's like him in the Vader suit in absolute misery for the rest of his life. Because this is what he's brought himself to. Like, that fit. But I mean, like, 2 of the best chapters ever written about prequel characters are in Revenge of the Sith. The Count Dooku chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And when Mace Windu finds out that Sidious is Palpatine and his love of the Republic and his anger that they have been betrayed, and they've been betrayed by Palpatine specifically, and what they must do in order to stop it. And the plan that goes into place for in case shit goes wrong by leaving Shakti at the temple.
Mm-hmm. Which was a mistake. They should have brought Shakti and left Kit Fisto at the temple.
Yeah, things would have gone better with Kit Fisto. But I mean, like, to be fair, Shakti got wrecked by Grievous.
Yeah, I remember that deleted scene.
Well, I mean, no, that's not canon. Well, in Shinji Totoski's Clone Wars.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking.
Well, they explain that because he says you're tired because she spent that whole time fighting all the Mandi guards, then had to run all the way to the bunker and to the bullet train, and was completely
I'm not blaming her for that. She was absolutely fatigued. He would get the jump on her. I mean, he killed who? What was it? He killed council members.
Yeah. Well, if you're as long as you're on the assumption that TCW is S canon, he did kill Adi Gallia in Obsession.
Yeah. I thought Adi Gallia is on the council in Phantom Menace.
Yeah, she's in the council for the first 2, and then she dies in Obsession, and gets replaced by Stossely, I believe.
Because George Lucas couldn't get the same actress.
Yep. That's why Eve Koth and Aiken Kohler are a thing.
That's why we have Captain Typho and not Captain Panaka. There's a whole bunch of that going on in the prequels.
At least they didn't roadie it from Avengers.
Oh.
Or Iron Man.
You know what? Don Cheadle is a better actor. I'm just going to say it. I am in the minority that I love. Well, I'm a big fan of his film Hotel Rwanda, which I think is...
Oh, that's a great movie.
A great movie. And since then, I just love Don Cheadle and everything he does. Even like him in Crash when he's just an awful human being.
Well, guys, I think I'm going to have to head out. It's getting a little late.
Yeah, we're about the 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
But just want to say thanks for inviting me on, Jeremy.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for being flexible. We could talk about Project Luminous and a bunch of other bullshit.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love the variety of topics that we handled. It was a lot of fun.
There's no primary reason to Legends podcast. We just talk about whatever, honestly.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. I love random nonsense. Hey, we didn't talk too much Highlander.
Which is why I still have all these coins right here, you know.
Coins are now banned.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw that, Dylan, but in one of the Geek Static posts, I was just like, I retired the keeper of the coins.
Yeah, it hit a point. We ran out of coins.
And I'm just like, and I ran out of interest. So I'm just like, you know what? And then people in the comments keep saying like, "Oh, there's another coin," and I'm like, guys, I'm bankrupt here. So, but
all right, everyone, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, where's my cursor? There it is.